Welcome to Mercy's Designs. My name is Mercy and I sell Stampin' Up! Products. Today I'm going to show you this beautiful thank you note using the lovely lily pad stamp set. So I will show you that real quick. And I also use some other products. This is a celebration set, so I will turn to that, the celebration brochure. So the first part is the stamp set, and this is a level 1, which is really extensive set, especially considering you can flip the images. This is a level 2, the die set, and finally another level 1 is the paper, the beautiful paper. Now I like making boards for my DSP, and this is the board and has a ton of colors in here. So it made it a little inconvenient for me, but it's really a cool paper, very impressionistic, I guess would be the right term. And yeah, it even says that. But if you're curious about this board, I do have a tutorial on how I make them and how they are reusable. So check that out. Okay, so to get started, I am going to go ahead and do a little bit of stamping. Because it's a photopolymer set, I do suggest you use a mat and go ahead, definitely you want to do that. So here is a scrap of paper, and the first thing I want to stamp is that beautiful big lily. So here is Poppy Parade ink, and again I will have all this information and products they've used in the description below. So just a nice clean image. Now if I wanted to, I could fill it in with Calypso coral and have it a lighter shade, but I do like using my blends, so I will be using that option. But all I would have to do is clean this off and flip it. So the next part is I'm going to bring in Garden Green, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp the outline here. So just want to make sure it's well inked. And there we have our nice impression. So because I did not want to bring in all of my dies, I did die cut out some, so I won't bore you with that. But right now I'm going to bring in some Granny Apple Green, and that was one of the colors that's featured. There are 2 greens in here, which is Granny Apple Green in the paper, the DSP, and this in Garden Green. So what I want to do here is I'm going to bring in my Garden Green, and I'm going to stamp almost a tone on tone, but not quite. The stamp I'm using here is from Floral Essence, and I already have had this, so I decided I'm just going to bring this in so it's a little bit less die cutting for when I have my stamp class. So that's why I chose this. And I'm hoping to get 3 on here, even though I only need 2. But the other thing I wanted to mention is, I don't know if everyone uses the envelopes their dies come in, but I like to cut off the flap and then use it for my scraps of cardstock, and then I put it on my shelf with the paper itself. So this is a repurposing idea I have, and it's working out pretty well. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so we're going to quickly punch this out. I'm going to set this aside. Punch out our leaves. And now I'm pretty particular about making sure my leaves are really nicely centered. I know some people aren't, and that kind of drives me crazy. You can comment below if you are one of the people that don't care, or the ones that, one of them that really makes an effort to line it up perfectly. It's actually not too hard to line up perfectly. I feel like the punches have come a long way in the last 10 years. They used to be a little harder. So the next part I wanted to talk about was I used the Coastal Weave embossing folder. So I already did that ahead of time just to save some time here. And I felt like it really added a nice little touch there. So I am going to bring in my other pieces. so that I die cut out. And we'll start assembling. So with my first one, I used Smoky Slate, and I kind of felt like it was a little lost. But I really am liking this basic gray against here. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this together. It's sad to cover that part up, but I wanted it a little less busy for this scene. My inspiration for this card came from a card I saw on Pinterest that was fairly similar, using a lily, but it was from a different set. So I wanted to be sure to give credit where credit was due. So the next part I'm going to speed up, and what I'm going to do is do a technique I like to call messy coloring, meaning I'm going to try to intentionally leave some white space here. So just sit back and watch this part. So for this next part, you notice I use my snail. Usually I use liquid glue, and the reason is if I need to adjust this, I feel like the snail allows a little bit more flexibility that way. So I'm just going to lightly put this down, and now I'm going to arrange my leaves. So again, I'm going to use a little snail this time, which is very unusual for me because I'm very big on using my liquid glue. It's definitely my go-to, the liquid glue is. But if I happen to feel like it's a little bit off, I can adjust this a little bit. The liquid glue, you do have wiggle room, but you have to wiggle pretty quickly. So I am opting for this option this time. Okay, so I'm going to just set this here. I think that looks pretty good. My arrangement. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my satin ribbon. So, oh, here it is. This is in the annual catalog. It's beautiful. It's, what size? 1/2 inch. And it's really pretty. It's always nice to, I really do enjoy having my black ribbon and white. The white is good because you can dye it usually. So it's very useful that way. Now I'm just going to kind of eyeball here, flip it over and tape. So I'm bringing my tape here real quick. And this is about the easiest way I've found to add the ribbon. You could use tear and tape, but for sheer speed, this goes really well. And I'm liking that position. I just was checking because I was a little worried I have it too low down, but I think it's pretty good. So I'm gonna go with that. There we go. Okay, so the next part is I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to some basic black. And it seems a little tall, but it'll work. I just need to center it real well, and it'll be fine. Now I'm getting a little generous here with my glue because I want to make sure if I need to wiggle it, I could do that because I really want to try to center this. It really annoys me when things aren't perfectly centered. I guess you're getting the impression I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which probably is true. Okay, again, I do have that little bit of wiggle time with the liquid glue, which is very helpful, especially when you don't get it perfectly. Now, I could go ahead and add this right now, which I think I will. And the first one I popped it up, but then I kind of felt like that was a bit of a mistake because it made it almost too high. So for mailing purposes. Now, what I'm looking at is right here at my lily pad. I want that reasonably straight. I don't care too much about the rest, but the lily pad, I want it somewhat straight. Okay. So that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so I wanted a little sentiment, very small, and to do that, I did a previous video and I used these sentiments, but I also have this one here. I'm just going to bring in something to support here, and I've already have my little die cut. This is from the So Sentimental. Actually, it's called Sweetly Stitched dies. It's the smallest of them. And it's pretty much impossible to get a real nice straight image when you are stamping a small image with red rubber. So lining, what I do is stamp it onto the scrap cardstock, then die cut it out, and then pop back in dies that are... And don't mash it too hard. When you have a small stamp, you really want to do a light touch. Now this could be a little hard to pull out, so you can do something like that or use your pokey tool to get it out. So I just wanted to give those little tips. So here we have it. We'll bring back in our card. So I want this kind of just to blend in on our card. I'm not going to pop it up, but you certainly could if you wanted. I was really happy with how this card turned out. So for the most part, I kept it as my first one, although with the slight change of the basic gray instead of the smoky slate, which I do like that. It's very subtle, but it's not, you know, it changes it up slightly. So I'm going to pause this video. I forgot to bring my card base, and I will resume it shortly. All right, sorry about that little break, but here is my base. I can't believe I forgot that, but you know, that's the life of a stamper. Sometimes you think you're prepared and you're not 100%. So anyhow, so it's just gonna be a real fine border of the smoky slate, which is lovely. It looks nice. It's a little hard for beginner stampers to do it, but people that have been stamping a while come to appreciate fine borders. So there it is. And now we're going to do a little stamping inside. So I have this stamp that says, thank you. I can't thank you enough. And this is again from that, what is it? So Sentimental, which is a great set, by the way. Really awesome. But most of these are free sets. So I'm just using that in Pretty Peacock. And the next thing I want to do is stamp my lily pad. And here's my ink pad. For a second I thought maybe I forgot that too, but I used it earlier. And I want to have my lily pad, it on a lily pad. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that straight like that. But I do not want the lily pad stamp, the little lily pad stamp. Where is that? Okay, where did I put that? I should have it. I know, oh, here it is. It was blending in because it looks very similar. So what you need to do is make a little mask, which I did on this Avery label. And I'm just going to pull it off. You don't have to cut around the top, because you're only covering the bottom part. So I'm just covering that. And now I'm gonna bring my garden green and stamp right on top of that. So it could be either direction, the little pointy thing, but I'm just gonna do it like that. So that's how it looks like, which is not what I wanted as far as like, you wanna be able to have it not covered like that. And so that's what the mask is for, and there it comes out perfectly. Really cool, love it. So that completes our card. I'll just put it in here real quick. I just use like 4 dots of glue and put it in, and we have the card complete. If you like this video, please consider subscribing if you haven't, and please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you have any stamping needs, email me at mewants3@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to help you place an order with a host code. If you have any questions, I will have all the information about how I made the card and the dimensions in the description below, but you can also email me as well or leave a comment. I love getting comments, so any feedback is awesome. All right, so here's our original card. It's not quite as high up because I didn't add extra dimensionals, but it's still pretty puffy. It's not like, you know, falling. So here, this one, I went ahead and colored it with the blend, so you can do that, or you can just leave it blank like that. So thank you so much for watching. If you, again, if you haven't subscribed, please do, and happy stamping.